darlings, how are you? It's so good to be back. I am your favorite mermaid mystic. Now, shall we get into it for the first portion of this video? Now, you know I love a good chin wag, okay? And so I thought that it was very important to share with you a bit of news. Now, it got out on the internet and the interweb without my knowing. It had already been leaked before I had given the permission or the okay for it to be spoken about, because I'm a bit leery in telling information and things like that about myself until I see fit that everything's going to be well, right? Sometimes we don't need to be disturbed by news that might be cumbersome upon myself as well as other people, which causes a little bit of strife, right? But I went to the emergency room last week. There's something that was found on my ovaries, and I did further testing today, and I have to go for more testing and more biopsies next week, and it's pertaining to my ovaries. Let's hope I do not have anything that is deadly. I'm thinking that I'm manifesting properly and positively, and I'm remaining optimistic. But that is where I have been. I have been struggling with female issues for quite a bit of time. And so, but I'm happy to be back, and I'm going to proceed as I always would, and I'm going to be positive and optimistic with loads of happiness and taking joy. And so let me square that housekeeping out of the way, okay? Now, that was a little bit to throw on you, was it not? I'm having vanilla cream tea today. It has no caffeine in it because I really have been through a lot today. So we're going to not have any stimulants today. So let's carry on and plunge right into the video. Now, what I wanted to share with you, this is going to be a brief video, but I thought I was inspired to share it with you. And it is how to know when to take inspired action, and what is inspired action. Now, I have a bit of cliff notes here because I'm old school. Now, I like to wear my spectacles, and I like to keep a notebook, okay? I do not have like a projector or a screen that has printed writing on it. As you know, I'm very, very old-fashioned here. Now, obviously, we do have a bit of modern technology because I am talking to you on the cell phone, okay? But anyway, let's carry on and plunge right in. Now, I wanted to share this with you because way back in 2014, I feel as though I really, really understood. Now, many of you know that have been a long time viewer of my channel know that I used to go to those Abraham Hicks workshops, okay, where you spend a couple $100, and hopefully they're a bit close. If not, you've gone to a cruise or whatever, so they can be a bit pricey. But what I loved in how Abraham Hicks, now I pretty much follow law of assumption at this point and juncture in my life, because I feel that it gives me quite a bit more feeling of power within myself, instead of still leaning outside of myself, feeling that the entity outside of myself, which is the universe, the great creator, these are some of the favorite words that I use. So when you hear these terms of endearment towards the great creator, that's who I mean, like the universe, or sorry, that was Jeffrey Sean texting me. If you hear the untangler of threads, which is another beautiful word that I really, really appreciate about the great creator, okay? So those are the words that I like to use because I think that they're magical and they're phrases of loveliness to me. Now, when Abraham Hicks speaks of, and that's not to say anything negative about Abraham Hicks, because Abraham Hicks was a lifesaver when I was preparing myself before I started to go on this voyage of leaving my ex. I call him my ex ill-suited mate. Perhaps I should give him another term of endearment. But Abraham Hicks was all I listened to, okay? And the way that Abraham Hicks explains following your inspired action is, if inspired action is not what you would normally hear when you hear these gurus or these entrepreneurs or these, you know, guru law of attraction influencers, loads of times you have to have very much discernment, darlings, because people that, you know, decide within 6 months if they've manifested a few things, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, what I'm telling you is oftentimes it's very important to understand, and you can feel it from the vibration that they're emitting, okay, is that if they have not dealt with many like travesties in their lives. Does that sound like I'm trying to get you to come to my channel? Well, of course, I would be an absolute fool for you not to listen to the Mermaid Mystic. However, everyone has that term of things that they resonate with, okay? You might resonate with Rita Kaminsky. Kaminsky, is that her name? You might resonate with a Sammy Ingram. You might resonate with a Joseph Ally. You might resonate with all of these, what's another one that's a good one? Like Dylan James. You might resonate with all of these folks, Teal Swan. And so that's not to say that we should dismiss them, because everyone resonates with other people at different times and different junctures in their life. Is that not so? And so, but what I want you to understand is there will be times that these particular gurus, okay, now I'm not calling anyone out because I'm a kind person and that's not necessary, that they don't understand the law in the way that, because they've not had experience. It would be like, let me give you an example, my darling. Say, for example, that someone that has spent, you know, now listen, I've spent over a decade, okay, well, not over a decade, so 2014, 2013 is when I began my enlightenment and my voyage of transformation, is what I like to call it, because that's what my book is coming out this year. It's going to come out probably around, well, I would say it's probably going to come around December, January, because I've got the tale of the Christmas bunnies coming out in October. But the Little Mermaid's transformational tale is all about me leaving religion behind and coming into spirituality and still remaining and living an old-fashioned lifestyle. Yes, my darling, sorry about that. Yes, living an old-fashioned lifestyle, and how I manifested the cottage to the core reality show, all of the things that I have manifested. And obviously there are many things that I have not yet manifested that I'm still working on, because isn't that true that we're all in a work of progress? No one has everything squared away, like all the bits and bobs squared away. Now, you're going to watch these people on YouTube, myself included, that we all have our own personal story, and it's quite lovely. Everyone's story is lovely, and it just depends on who you resonate with, and in the juncture in your life as well. You know, everyone's on different paths, and everyone's taking those different journeys at different times. Some people are ready for, you know, understanding, you know, leaving religion and how that plays a massive impact on living a spirituality, a spiritual lifestyle. And it's just my aesthetic is all about, you know, my bygone mermaid, and I'm living my fairy tale life as a author and artist, and living an old-fashioned lifestyle, which I've been doing for quite a number of years before cottagecore actually became something called cottagecore. I mean, I know it's a very old thing, but it was not very popular on the social media or anything like that when I was doing it, you know, 7-8 years ago. But anyway, and I did it when my children were young. I've been doing it my entire life since I was a wee little lass, you know. But anyway, so again, this is going to be about inspired action. So when I would go to the Abraham Hicks workshops, I would hear about following your bliss, and this is where I got that from. Now that's a Joseph, his name, darlings. Can Could you write it in the comments? I can't remember the last name, but it's Joseph Murphy. It's Joseph Murphy, right? It's a quote from Joseph Murphy, cut down, you know. It's a longer version of a quote he used to talk about, saying, follow your bliss. And Abraham, if you know and have watched Abraham Hicks any time in your life, which a lot of these gurus is what they follow along the Abraham Hicks teachings and just create their own thing as well. But I really enjoy Neville Goddard, and plus he is a Pisces, so I'm very well. Abraham Hicks is a Pisces too. Isn't that quite interesting? And so listen, all Pisces are very much good mystics, you know what I mean? Because we have we're on the 12th cycle of the finishing, so we're extremely high vibrational, and more so than any other sign that there is. And is that tooting my own horn? Yes it is, darling. Yes it is, because I'm very wise when it comes to trying to teach these things in a manner that is very palatable, and that you can take them in easy. Okay, I try to normalize them, and I try to use metaphors. So following your bliss is very much learning to go with the flow of the stream, following the flow of the current, okay? And if we're going to use mermaid analogy, which is very fitting, I want you to understand that the world is normally, this is how the normal world, the big blue marble works, okay? Is that they think that you're supposed to get up and you're supposed to work really hard, even with manifestation. So when you start to manifest, you still, until you have rewired your brain and your subconscious mind with new beliefs, okay? This is why self-concept is very important, why having you rewiring your subconscious mind whilst you are sleeping, okay? Because if you do not, it's going to be very difficult for you to imprint those new beliefs into your life. Now, what begins to happen when you do imprint new beliefs in your life, things will flow quite easily. It's almost going to be as if you think that it's not working or you're not doing enough, because we have been programmed and set up to believe that working hard, especially with manifestations now, because once you transition from going, oh, I'm living the law of attraction and I'm manifesting this particular thing or this particular thing, you still will, and I know from personal experience, you will struggle because you think to manifest is difficult. Now, when you rewire your brain and you rewire your subconscious mind, you will no longer feel that way. This is why I'm very much an advocate for not overlooking and not going straight away because you want the manifestation. Things take time. It's as if we have seasons, love. Darlings, my dear mermaid hearts. There's seasons in life, is there not? We've got the spring, the summer, the winter, the fall. And in the springtime, we don't get apples, do we? Unless you're doing it and you're making it work in some factory or something. But normally we're going to have apples around October, November, sometimes in the end of summertime, right? We're not going to have dead leaves on the trees in spring, okay? There's a gestation period. And so how Abraham Hicks talks about this, and in the mini workshops, is that inspired action is, so think, for example, if I were to say, oh, I want a cup of tea, okay? Let's use this. Oh, I want a cup of tea. And I'm thinking, I want a cup of tea, and I want it to be Earl Grey, and I want some cream on the top, and I would like a piece of pineapple cake, or do I want a chocolate chip cookie? Your inspired action is going to, if you listen, you need to learn to recognize that you are God, okay? There's no other person outside of you. You, the highest aspect of yourself, the person that you think you're talking to God, is really the God version of yourself coming down into this particular vessel that we have in the 3D and this earth, okay? But if you think for a moment, give yourself time to think. And I said, I really want pineapple cake, but do I want a chocolate chip cookie? Okay, the higher version of you already knows what you want, but it's important, love, to take inspired action. What do you really want? So if you sit with yourself for a moment, okay, you say, I know that I don't want a chocolate chip cookie, so my inspired action would be, I'm going to have a piece of pineapple cake. By the way, I just devoured it, and it was quite delicious. As my aunt makes them, and she used to, her mother used to have a business, and I said, you can make the cakes and scones and all of that, because she's chef's kiss on that. And I said, I want those for the tea room, because, you know, Mrs. Threadgood's tea room, I'm going to have one of those. But anyway, aside from that, so my inspired action was, because that's my inner being, that's my higher Raquel self. That's why I call it my mermaid inner being, which is the higher self version of me, because I am God, right? God came to become man, which was Jesus, was the implication of that example, to become God again, okay? God became Jesus, or Raquel. God became Raquel to become God again. So God became Jesus to become God again. God became whatever your name is to become God again afterwards. Do you understand? So you are God. And when you're talking, you're literally talking to the higher self of you, which is with the great creator, okay? Because our soul incarnates within this vessel, this body, but there's still the higher version of you, which is the God. It's that tethering. It's like pretend there's a string, okay? So you can never go wrong, my loves. You can never do the wrong thing, even though maybe you didn't listen to your inner being and your guidance system. Maybe you didn't take inspired action. Because if it's work and it's hard and it's arduous and you feel like you're toiling away in life, it's actually not a good thing, because what you're doing is working entirely too hard. You need to learn to trust yourself, love yourself so much that and this is a quote I made up, is that trust yourself so much and it will be of equal facility to the trust that you have in God, which God is your higher self, okay? So when you learn to trust yourself immensely, you trust God immensely, do you not? Yes, because you are one and the same. Now, I was raised in religion, so understand that God is you and you are God, okay? The scriptures have been a little bit diluted within misinformation. And remember, I had my near-death experience, and so I know what the truth is now. So I'm trying to share that with you so that you do not go through your entire life feeling as though you have no pathway. I am only here as a guiding vessel for you. I am not here to do the work for you. I'm here to help you and kind of lend a hand as an advocate, but you are to do the work, because I want you to have all of the power, all of the glory, all of the everything. I don't want you to say anything about me. I am just the vessel, that's all. And every guru or every teacher that you ever come upon, I want you to use that test for yourself, okay? Because that is going to be a very knowledgeable test and intricately involved, because it's going to tell you innately if this person is trying to receive all of the accolades and trying to be on the pedestal, and that you are not as level as them, you are not as important as them, and you feel that dissonance, you feel that discord in you. I want you to understand that that is your mermaid inner being telling you this teacher might not be right for you, because I do not want you to ever feel as though I'm better than you, I'm below you, or above you. Okay, we are all equal. You are me and I am you, love, darlings. And so I want you to understand that when you are listening to your inner being, that when it is, this is Peter, isn't he so sweet? Now, we lost Prudence 2 weeks ago. She passed. And so we still have 10 cats though. We had 11, but now we've got 10. You know, the stray ferals. But I treat them, they all have names and little beautiful little collars like this. They're well treated and well taken care of. But we've got a little colony here at the Cottage Village. And but anyway, what I was saying is, yeah, I want you to use your inner being and to discern who is a good teacher for you. Now, there might be a teacher that you love very much, but they might you might grow weary of them, and then you go on to another teacher. Just like you might grow weary of me, and you might find another teacher like, ooh, I don't like her teachings or whatever. And no harm, no foul. There's many of people out there, but my channel is for very high vibrational people that are enlightened and empowered, and this is a high vibrational channel. So if you found this channel, then you know you are vibrating very, very high, my darlings. And I want you to remember that. So always think, you know, that the perfect following your bliss is anything that makes you happy will lead you to your manifestation. So for example, I might be inspired, like today I came into the cottage after my doctor's appointments and I had a little lie down, and then I wanted to have a piece of cake and tea, and I wanted to paint a bit. Now, you might say, well, that's inspired action. Yes, everything that I do that makes me follow my bliss, my happiness, is inspired action. And you might think to yourself, and I've given videos on this before, well, how is that leading to my manifestation? Well, Abraham Hicks talks about following your bliss, and it leads to your manifestation. Now, you think that it's not directly, you're like, well, it's not, I'm not doing anything towards that. But what's happening, love, is as long as you are following your bliss and you are remaining happy, you are being led to your manifestation. The inspired action is going to help you to think of something. Like, for example, I had an inspired moment, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to send that person that, and then it's a ripple effect. What happens is it leads you to your manifestation, although it seems as though, darling, that it's not. It absolutely is. So you're like, oh, but I want my SP, and that has nothing to do with my SP. It has everything to do with your SP, my darling, everything. As long as you're following your happiness and following your bliss, it's getting you there. There's never, listen, so think of like Albert Einstein, which is relativity, right? All that is collapsing, okay? So pretend that your SP is here, and here is the timeline, right? This is your manifestation, and this is your SP, and you want to get there. Collapse it, collapse the time. And it's going to end you, right? Because it's here and here, it's going to get it right there. And as long as you are following your bliss and you are following your happiness, following your happiness, following your happiness, following your happiness, right? It'll collapse time, because we only have time here on this planet. There is no time. Do you understand? 1,000 years is like that for spirit or the great creator. So the only reason that you can't get to your manifestation is because you're looking at time. And the thing that time keeps you from is regurgitating that you're not there yet. So when you follow your bliss, you're not thinking about time. Think about it like, think about when you go to work, okay? And you're like, how many times, everyone can understand this, if you're over 15 or 16 years old and you've had an employment, when you go to work and you clock in, okay, and you're like, I'm going to stay busy, and you're really, really super busy, what happens to the time? Doesn't it seem like it kind of disappears, and you're like, oh, it's 4 o'clock and I'm off work now? Because you stayed really, really busy, didn't you? Following your bliss, you were actually doing the things that your job was entailing to do. And you didn't think about time in the sense like, you were like, oh yeah, it's my lunch break now. Oh my goodness, I got to go because now I got to get back on the clock. I'm almost done with work and I got this and that to do. And you're not really thinking about it in the sense that it's like stressed out, right? Think about when you've had a job or you've had to work a shift and you're like, oh my God, because you keep looking at the time because you're not busy and you're like, oh, it's taking forever in the day, right? This is exactly the thing about your manifestation. If you collapse time, darling, it never stops, okay? The universe, the big blue marble, never stops spinning on the axle. Do you understand? So you're always going forward, but you want to go forward following your bliss, following your happiness, following your bliss, following your happiness, because guess what's going to happen? You're going to get there in a massive amounts of time, because you're collapsing time. Do you understand? You collapse time. That's what you did. You collapse time. Don't think about time. Now, is that difficult to do? No. I want to use the example. Nothing is difficult unless you say that it's difficult. I want you to change your mindset. Everything that you think is this or that or this or that, if it's negative, I want you to change it positive. Find a way to make it positive, just like me with the breast cancer. I mean, the ovarian cancer. You know what I'm doing? No, this is only leading me best case scenario. This is leading me best case scenario to the outcome. It might manifest into I'm getting my manifestation. We don't know that. There is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have. And Abraham Hicks talks about that constantly. So I want you to remember that analogy. Like when I was working mermaid shows and I was swimming, I had like, say for example, I had like 3 shows a day. Usually I had about 3 shows a day, but sometimes I'd have like 5. And when I was swimming, I was enjoying, I was following my bliss, I was having fun, and I was doing my little things, and and then I got out the shower, and then I had to do a bird show, and I had to narrate this and narrate the parrot show. I was not thinking about time. And then it was like in a whip stitch, sorry that was a bit loud, in a whip stitch, Peter's way up on the cupboard. Oh my God, he's going to knock my things down. But anyway, when I was doing that, it happened in a whip stitch. I was just like, oh my God, it's time to go home now. So that, I want you to remember that. Collapse time, darling. And in those happy moments, if you're like, oh, I want to think about my SP. If it's happy, you think about it. If it's happy, you affirm it. If it's happy, you daydream about it. But if you are feeling vexed in your heart, or anxious, or anxiety, or irritation, drop it. Go do something else. Go do something else. I'm telling you, this is how you get your manifestations like that. That reality show that I got cast for, I only had 230 people that were following me on Instagram. By the way, if you want to follow me on Instagram, every day I do beautiful little motivational law of attraction, law of assumption, little stories. So I'm very, very active on my stories all during the week. And you can have a spot of tea, and you can talk to me, and we can chat amongst ourselves. But anyway, what I'm saying is, I only had 230 people that were following me on Instagram, okay? Because Sawyer had died at that time, and I deleted, and you know all the whole story. I've already told you about it. But what I'm saying is, you would think like, oh, she's never going to get that on a Hello Sunshine reality show. She's never going to get that. But the night before, I had manifested that. The night before, I did a law of, like You Are in Barbados from Neville Goddard. I didn't even do sats. I just was imagining it when I was taking a bath, and I had little candles and everything, and I was following my bliss because it made me happy to think about it. Like, wouldn't that be so neat if I was on a reality show? And the next day, I got contacted. So what I'm telling you is, follow your bliss in collapse time. Collapse time. And if you think that you're having like a go or a moment that's making you upset, go watch, go read a book, go watch someone on TikTok if you like a particular law of attraction, or come watch me on Instagram, come talk to me on Instagram, go paint a picture, go work in the garden. Find something that you love to do that makes you absolutely happy. If you like watching memes on Instagram or funny things on YouTube, that's what you do, love. You're collapsing time. That's what you're doing. You're getting your manifestation. This is inspired action. I'm telling you. If you will listen to Auntie Raquel, Auntie Razzie, if you will listen to Auntie Razzie, you're going to get your manifestations way, way quicker than all of this nonsense on stilts, okay? Most of it is nonsense on stilts, okay? So I hope that this was beneficial to you, and I hope you deemed benefit from it. And as always, most affably yours till my next swim. And Peter says, toodle pip, darlings. Toodle pip. Cheers.